Hi everybody, it's Vita here at Emanate. So we are going to continue our conversation on relationships and interpersonal skills in the month of February. So have you ever connected with someone at a social distance event or even a Zoom call, and in a matter of 30 minutes they end up telling you their life story of trials and tribulations, and you don't really even get a word in? And it might also leave you speechless because you've just met this person. Or maybe you too are so eager to connect, especially in today's world, that you find yourself sharing more and more of your story of a stranger on the street or someone you've just met. The reality is sometimes we mistake intensity with intimacy, and it actually ends up leaving us more disconnected. So instead of letting something foster growth, a lot of the times, because the world moves so quickly, we assume that the relationships and connections we make should do the same. And when we place that kind of expectation on people, we end up being more needy instead of forming a relationship on mutual respect. So in this video, I'm going to go over a small framework that you can use to help support your mindset around building and keeping relationships and managing your own expectations. So a quick disclaimer on this. So real connection is when you are yourself. With any framework that you ever come across, it's never a trade-off in presenting yourself as the person that you really are. So, but with that said, again, this provides some structure for those that might be struggling and need some type of path to go along. So number one, networking relationships. So I want you to think about this more as leaves on a tree. So this is where you meet someone at a one-time event or a meeting where you have a greeting and typically somewhat of a surface conversation. You may really begin this conversation with a compliment towards someone. So you might use some type of current event that's happening in the world. You know, an example of that could be, right, the Super Bowl just passed. And typically in this spot, it's really about ritual questions. So have you attended this conference before, this meeting before? Do you live around here? Where are you from? And you try to build on some of those similarities to have some type of connection. In networking relationships, you may never see these people again. So typically you're not telling these people your entire life story. Now, with that said, there are times where you meet someone and it's a kindred spirit and you go on and on and on. But however, I don't believe that that's the norm. So number two, acquaintance relationships. So I'd like you to picture this as a branch in the leaves. So you might know this person slightly. You've been to the same similar events a handful of times. You can anticipate seeing them in a common environment. So for example, you might attend church together. You might see them at your kids' soccer games. You might typically see them at bigger work events, or you might even share the same friend. So the conversation in this might be more informational questions, and it might sound like, so have you always been on the job? What's the journey that led you there? You know, have you always been in the Midwest? And you ultimately also build on the past conversations that you've had. These are folks that you probably say things like, oh, we should definitely go for coffee, and no one really makes the effort to do so. One thing to remember is that you may have acquaintance relationships in a variety of different environments, and they may always stay at that level. So number three is work relationships. And this again is more of a branch in the tree. And this could be after you've worked with someone for a good while, you end up really connecting and sharing a bond. On the other side of it, it could also be where you've just instantly clicked with someone that you worked with over the work that you share. So typically in this relationship, you collaborate and you share out. You might have lunch together. You might call them at any time if you guys get an email that says something has changed at work. This might be the person that you complain to about other people in the workforce or your boss. And this is someone who might know some of your story, but majority of the time you're talking about what's going on at work, and that's the bond that you share. Number four is developing relationships. And this one is really the start of the trunk of the tree. So this might be where you have an acquaintance or even a work friend that obviously you're seeing in a particular environment, and now it begins to extend to a different environment that lends itself to more shared experiences and more sharing of yourself. So this might be where both of you are sharing a little bit more of your story. So it's really a level 1 self-disclosure. So you're sharing more of, who you are, vacations you've taken, funny things that have happened to you, really significant moments in your life. Maybe you'll throw in a difficult time here and there. And it's developing, it's building. And there is a healthy level of reciprocity, that you are not the only one who's doing the sharing, that you're both sharing and listening. Now, here's a quick disclaimer that I find that people struggle with the most. There are times where you no longer see the acquaintance in an environment you used to see them, or even in a work relationship, you have now gotten a new job. And although some of these relationships have gone to the level of developing relationship, it may not stay that way if the environment or circumstance has changed. So at times there is a necessary ending due to the circumstances. So number 5 is connected relationships. So this is really the deeper part of the trunk of the tree. So these are folks that know a lot more of your story, but they also know a lot more of who you are. So for example, most of my connected relationships know that, I'm someone who gets everywhere at least 15 minutes early. So it's a running joke, Sweets will save us seats, right? So they know a little bit more about how you work and how you run and your personality. There's also a level 2 of self-disclosure that might lend itself to past conversations. For example, you might tell people fears that you've had or difficult situations that you have gone through. You might talk about past relational problems or even things that have made you feel really foolish. And these are people that you've had a good amount of shared experiences with for a long period of time. And our last one, number 6, is deepen relationships. So in the display of the tree, this is really the root. So these are the folks that have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they are still around. So Oprah has this great quote where she says, there's a lot of people who will take the limo with you, but not a lot of people that will ride the bus when the limo breaks down. In these relationships, these are the people that are going to ride the bus with you. So these are really the people that you probably think about first to tell something really bad that happened or something that's really good. And there's a level 3 of self-disclosure that happens in these deepened relationships that really separates it from connected relationships. So these are the folks that you can actually tell how their behavior impacted you. These are folks that you're having pretty honest conversations with in the present time. And that is really built on the continuous reciprocity and the backdrop of a consistent character. It's really not about perfection as much as it is that you keep showing up. So a couple of things just to remember. Regardless if someone is in the category of deepen relationship or developing relationship, that doesn't mean that it's forever. With anything, even relationships, some things have a season. In addition, more doesn't mean better. So in the deepen relationship category, you may have one person that fits that, and that's okay. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a framework for folks that are feeling really discouraged around community and relationships. There is a worksheet that I will attach with the information just in case you want to unpack it a little bit more. Again, I hope that helps. Till next time, emanate your best self.